Let's welcome Robert Richman, Managing Director of CURO Facilities Services, an innovative cleaning service provider for the independent school sector, born out of the multi-award-winning Thomas Franks Group. Thanks, Robert, for coming on to the Polo Lamb Experience to share to educators what you're up to.
Thank you. Thanks. And before we go on, Polo, please call me Rob. Everybody calls me Rob.
All right, Rob. Today's episode is very novel for educators and I, to be honest. We're going to touch upon something that not many will be talking about, right, in the education sector. It is not as flashy, certainly, as VR or AI, but in the most fundamental sense, without it, schools just won't function, right? So that's why we have Rob here today to share a little bit more about what he does. Now, before we start with the main questions, we have the tradition of having ChatGPT ask Rob some, randomish questions. So are you ready, Rob?
Oh, okay, pressure. Okay, I'm ready. Go for it.
It's just a quick answers, we don't need any great thinking.
I won't think.
Okay, let's go. Swimming or cycling?
Swimming.
Cost efficiency or highest cleaning standards?
Oh, for me, standards.
Okay. Cutting edge cleaning technology or experienced staff? So tech or personnel, basically.
Oh my gosh, Polo, this is in at the deep end. Experienced staff.
Cool. Fish and chips or kebab?
Fish and chips.
Hotel or Airbnb?
Hotel.
Nice. That's the round finish. I hope your brain got fired up in very quickly right there. There's no right or wrong answer. I mean, this is.
I don't know. There'll be people saying there is.
Come on, no.
I think there are a lot of hybrid. There's a lot of hybrid answers in there, aren't there? In the two big ones.
Of course. You at the end of the day, it is the triangle, right? The cost, the standard, the quality, and time.
Exactly.
It depends on how much time the school gives you, how much cost they can give. All right. So
and their expectations. What is the desired outcome? That differs from school to school.
Exactly. Let's dive right in. So, talk us through, Rob, about your early days and what is your dream?
Well, my dream. Well, I mean, my early dreams were to be involved in sport in some way. That's when I wanted to be involved in sport. Not necessarily a sports person, but I really wanted to be in and around sport. Preferably tennis. My first job was in a sports store in London in the bottom of Regent Street, Piccadilly, called Lily White's, and I worked on the tennis department, and it was like a busman's holiday. I went to work every day to sell tennis rackets. It was great fun. And I was in retail for many years, and I had a great time. I worked for some great companies. Worked for Warner Brothers, which was great. I was very young, and that took me to America, and it was great.
You lived there. You lived there for a bit.
No, I went there. But I've part of me is always, my family have had connections with California for many, many years. So I've been going there since I was about 4 years old. So I know it very well. But no, the work was just, work trips, etc. But at a young age, which was very exciting, I kind of fell into cleaning. I haven't met anybody, Polo, who chose cleaning as a career. I mean, let's be honest. Let's get that out there. I yet to meet that person who said, "Yeah, I want to get into the cleaning industry."
To be fair, there was this. There's two.
Introduce me.
No. There was this twins that I saw on TikTok, right? Because of Simon Scribb. I don't know if you heard of Simon Scribb. He's now a huge influencer, entrepreneur who gives money away and to basically help people's dreams come true with business setting, within the business.
Yeah.
And there's these two twins that he bumped into on the street one day, and these two twins loves to clean, and like they have a cleaning service, and they have like a innovative way of marketing it. Basically, they make it like funny, and like the videos are great. And I'm pretty sure those two somehow wanted to get into the cleaning industry. I don't know.
Well,
I need to.
Yeah, well, sounds like it. Fantastic. So yes, okay. But apart from those, for the twins, I haven't met anybody, and I haven't met the twins. So, but I got involved in the cleaning industry through a family connection, a gentleman who was very close to our family, who ran a very, very successful cleaning company and companies throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s, and unfortunately passed away about 15 years ago. And he was an incredible entrepreneur, and he started off cleaning windows in North London, in Tottenham area. You've probably heard of Tottenham Hotspurs, right near there. And he was cleaning the windows of offices around that area at a very young age. He had a very young family and a young wife. He built that into one of the biggest cleaning companies in the country. Wow. And he actually was the first cleaning company to be the incumbent for a council waste disposal. So now when our bins are collected by Onyx or Bither and they're outsourced from the council, that used to be all council work, and now he was the first outsourced contract in Southend in Essex, and now it's just part of the course. And he was an incredible guy, and he did live the dream, going about dreams. He built his cleaning company, sold it, built another one, became chairman of a Premiership football club, became an MP. So he was one of those just incredible people. I got into the cleaning industry through him, through one of his companies, and I went to work for one of his companies. And I really actually really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the people. The people in the industry are fantastic, from operators to HR people, everybody working together. And I then went to work for a company called Enviro. I was there for about 9 years, and that they predominantly are public sector, so a lot of education. And I sort of found myself specializing in education tenders from primary school right through to universities, big campus universities with student accommodation. But my biggest interest, and the reason was because when you're doing public sector tenders, they're very, very, understandably, they're very, very price focused. Yes. They're not always outcome focused. It is almost still an inconvenient cost line on the P&L. We have to get the school cleaned. We have to have the toilets cleaned. I thought that would change with COVID. It did change with COVID. It went to the other extreme. Those schools, those public sector schools, had day janitors walking around with disinfectant like armies of people. And I thought, okay, maybe now they're understanding that a clean and hygienic environment is really, really important. But unfortunately, that has kind of fallen back to probably pre-COVID attitudes. And that's because I understand budgets are very, very tight, and they have to do the best they can with what they've got. But I found that the independent school market, although cost is always important when running any business and you're procuring any service, but they were certainly a lot more interested in the outcome of that service, that they wanted their pupils and their staff and their stakeholders to come to work and to school and learn in a very clean and hygienic environment. I started to have some success with winning cleaning contracts in that market space.
So you were selling,
and then
essentially you were an accountant.
yeah, I think essentially I'm a seller. I am certainly much more of a seller than an operator. I've surrounded myself with some very good operators, and I've learned the operational side of the business, especially in my present role. I'm doing that all the time, but my background is selling. But I think you need to have a real grasp of what can operationally be done to build a solution for the customer. And it's been really, really exciting. But what I foresaw was in the UK, I'm sure you know, the independent school market has not been subject to VAT, which is obviously 20% on school fees. And that was started to be muted about 5 years ago. And I always find, I don't know if you agree, Polo, but once something like that starts getting talked about politically, I think the egg timer is being put on, and it is going to happen. It's going to happen. And I was very much thinking that traditionally a lot of independent schools still clean in-house. They still haven't outsourced. And many have outsourced their catering because, food is so emotive. It's so important to the pupils. The first thing the pupils will get in the car when they go home is they'll whinge about lunch if it's not good.
I remember those days.
Yeah, we've all been there, and I think if you talk to any head teacher and ask them what are the most emails about, bless you, our food when it's not going right, and the complaints, but. They don't really talk about the cleaning of the school, although I know there's many children out there who won't go to the toilet at school, and they'll wait till they get home, because they don't want to go to the toilet.
Those days as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Toilets. It's like, you have the whole campus, right? And then there are certain toilets at certain floors, certain level where, I don't know, some of the kids are nearer that are just dirtier and they make a mess, basically. And
there's always the one that's going to be maybe clean, or cleaner. So one of the resistances to outsource the cleaning in the independent school business was because, when we get our cleaning bill, we're going to have to pay VAT, and we can't claim the VAT back, so it's going to be expensive for us to outsource. That was always a bit of a red herring, because independent schools, normally when they're out in-house, are so inefficient. And I don't mean that as a derogatory comment. It's not their speciality, right? They're there to teach children.
Yeah. I mean, you don't expect them to know
exactly.
anything about
so are they walking around the cleaning show at Excel next week, 3 days next week in London? There's a cleaning show. Are they walking around there looking at the most newest innovative equipment, machinery, solution? Of course they're not. So what they traditionally did, or do, and still, is they throw labour at the issue. And labour is around 75 to 80% of a cleaning contract. It's labour. So every time you throw more labour at your cleaning team, you're adding significant cost. But perception is reality, and that's why they weren't outsourcing.
Yeah.
So really, the reason how I got to where I am now is, it's an incredible story, to be honest. But I'll let you be the judge of that. And let it be a testament to LinkedIn, to be honest.
Yes, of course.
So the story goes, and it's absolutely true, is every Easter time, in my spare time, my daughter's a swimmer, so I'm chairman of Paul's Swimming Club, a pretty big swimming club, successful swimming club down in Dorset, in the UK. And we take about 24 swimmers down to a school called Mount Kelly School. Beautiful independent school. Beautiful. And they have a huge swim centre there with an indoor 50-metre Olympic-sized pool. We take them down there for a week for a camp, because the school during the Easter holidays bleed the asset. So they hire out the boarding house, and we take our athletes. And over the course of a week, obviously very hungry athletes are building up for the British nationals.
Yep.
They eat breakfast, lunch and dinner, and they get fed very well. And at the end of the camp, I thanked the school on LinkedIn and thanked the swim centre, but also I thanked the catering company, which was Thomas Franks. And I thanked them very much for, feeding our swimmers so brilliantly. There were no complaints. They were really over the moon about the food. And Frank Bothwell, the owner of Thomas Franks, who's I now subsequently have met, obviously, and learned, is an incredible entrepreneur, not much different from the person I was talking about earlier that got me into cleaning. And he connected with me and said, well, thank you for your comments. That's very kind. And I went to him and I basically said, you should be cleaning in these schools that you're catering in, because Thomas Franks, I knew, they only cater in the independent school market. They also cater for a business and industry and have some very good contracts. But 70% of their business, around £100 million turnover, about 70% of that is in the independent school market. And I said, look, with this VAT coming around the corner, many of these schools you cater in are in-house on their cleaning, and they will be looking perhaps to outsource, because why wouldn't they now? Because they can claim that all-important VAT back and they can offload the problem. They can get cost efficiencies, they can get a professional service, they can then focus on their core activities, and they get a specialist cleaning company in. And Frank got back to me and said, we should meet, because I've been thinking the same thing. Wow. He had the stars aligned, Polo. He'd been thinking the same thing, and it was really exciting. So we sat down. I said to him, you can't run this from your cleaning teams. I've seen this happen. Other catering companies have said, yeah, we'll run the cleaning as well. And, a cleaning manager and a cleaning team and cleaning operation managers and support, I'm not a catering, I'm not cleaning experts. And also they've got enough to do to then suddenly have 20 cleaning operatives to look after. And often, if it doesn't go well, it then drags down that core service where they've been doing so well, i.e. the catering. So Frank totally agreed. So we set up a separate company, which is owned by the group, called CURO Facilities Services. CURO means let us take care of you in Latin. And we're building that up. Now we're busy tendering for a lot of independent schools that they cater in. But we will be running that via a separate operational team, a separate structure. So the catering team are not under strain, and it's been really, really exciting. It's a bit of a rocket ship, if I'm being honest, because unlike most companies, you sort of build the company, get your compliance in place, and get your structure in place, and then you go hunting business. We've got the business, we've got the people knocking at the door. Just like I predicted, independent schools are incredibly challenged. They've got the they've got the VAT, they've got the NI,
yes,
which is absolutely probably more far-reaching than the VAT is the increase in national insurance. And then the business rates. So the triple whammy has really hit those independent schools very, very hard. So they are looking at their costs, and one of those is their cleaning. And if we can reduce their labour costs and still give them a cleaner school, or not reduce their labour costs, but actually do much, much more in the spec. For the same money, it is a huge attraction to them. And we're talking to many, many people about this at the moment. So it's really very, very exciting. And yeah, I'm enjoying it immensely.
So before you obviously mentioned that to Frank, did you you were working for your past company?
I've been consulting for about 18 months. So I have been consulting. I was freelancing. Yeah, I was working for a number of cleaning companies on different projects, but also focusing for those companies on the independent school market.
Interesting. Yeah,
that's the market I was really trying to build.
So was your dream dream really to build a business? Was it always on your mind?
Yeah, so about 2 years. I think what my actual dream was to was to find a catering company, because the thing is with independent schools, it's a little bit of a club. It's very it's a bit old school, and excuse me, and trying to get in front of the bursars and the business managers is very, very hard. It's extremely hard. I've tried. And my dream was find a catering company that is already got the relationships in these schools. They've got the little black book of all the names and the contacts. Yeah. They ring and the phone gets answered. There's me, who knows how to solutionize and come up with a great solution for these schools when it comes to cleaning and finding cost efficiencies and savings. Yeah. And then let me find a cleaning company that fits in with that, can deliver the standards. And the three of those will have form a new company, a tri-party agreement. What happened was, Thomas Frank didn't want the third part. He wanted to build his own cleaning company. So he said, no, let's not go and find a cleaning partner and do that. Let's build our own cleaning company. That may take a bit more time, but it's group owned and we have control. So that's what we've been doing. So yeah, that's what I've been working towards, and I got close a couple of times. I had a catering company, not at the time Thomas Franks. I had a catering company interested, but I didn't get the cleaning company. Then catering company fell away, and then I found a cleaning company who'd be interested. And I never had the 3 points of the triangle. Obviously, I was always there, static, keen and willing. So this is a bit of literally is a dream come true.
Nice one, Rob. It sounds like you're having a good time. Like it's coming together. I always tell people, because obviously this podcast is as much about education and innovation as entrepreneurship in itself. One of the main things that I try to push in the education sector is become more entrepreneurial, in the sense that leaders and within the school, the students as well, take more initiatives and believe that their dream can come true, basically. And you are like the example of that, where if you really put your head around it and try your best, to talk to as many people as possible about that dream that you have, somehow the pieces do come together. It would take long, but
I totally agree. I mean, I've been in many conversations over the last year. People sort of I suppose bad mouth LinkedIn a little bit and say, "Oh, it doesn't work," blah blah. And I suppose it's like anything. It may not work 99 times out of 100. It may be a waste of time or whatever, but you only need it to land once. And look, one post and it's still there. People connect with me. You can go down and see my post. It's still there. About March last year, It's there. And that one post has, in less than a year, I'm sitting here, formed a company, and we already have a large contract started down in Dover, a big boarding school, and we're talking to at least about 14 to 16 schools coming on board in September. So CURO could be at £2 to £2.5 million turnover in 16 months after we registered a company's house. Amazing. So that is all because of a LinkedIn post.
I thank LinkedIn honestly for many things. Because if it wasn't for LinkedIn, literally my business wouldn't exist either. The fact that my first project, so I was back in the days in just after the first phase of COVID, just when we were coming out the first phase. Yeah. I was busy, trying to figure out how, as you were mentioning, how do you get in touch with those schools, right? I need to get in front of the marketing directors, but it's the same problem.
Yeah.
And then, thanks to LinkedIn, I messaged directly to one of the schools here in Spain. and we were in touch already a year before, but she never answered. Imagine that. So a year after, I was like, I'm just going to take another shot at it. And she answered, and just out of the blue, right timing, the stars aligned, and I got the ball rolling. After that, obviously I had a portfolio to show to other schools, and 5 years down the line, I'm here talking to you. So thanks to LinkedIn, I've been able to connect with so many great people. Frank was another one of them. He came out of the blue. I didn't mention him at all. I don't even know how where he saw me on LinkedIn, but he messaged me, and I thought, oh, great. Yeah, why not? Maybe there's some kind of collaboration going, and that's how I met you a year down the line after that.
Absolutely.
It's truly a great platform, and I encourage anybody who's trying to build anything right now to be an entrepreneur and build a business, to be on it.
And I met you, Polo, because we happened to have about a month into me starting CURO, I was in a meeting room, but the meeting had finished, but I was still want to drive back to where I live. It's about 2.5 hour drive. So I was working from that table. It was a board table, and I was working from that separately. And Chris and Paul from Thomas Franks came in and said, "Oh, do you mind if we're doing a Teams meeting on the screen with somebody?" I said, "Oh yeah, okay, carry on." And you were presenting your product, the 3D mapping, and I was working away, and I was like, and I ended up looking at this thinking, "Wow, there's something we can do here for the cleaning. This is a brilliant." So I let it all finish, and then I said, "I want to meet this guy," and that's how And now I think we're in the midst of offering your product in a tender I'm doing, which is going to be probably at this point more business than the TF are currently.
100%.
Yeah, so it's amazing. Sliding doors is those sliding doors moments, and I think the gentleman I was telling you about earlier, who's passed away, he once told me that life has a conveyor belt. And there used to be a game show. I don't know if you remember. There used to be a game show years ago called the Generation Game. Basically, the end game of the Generation Game was a contestant would sit in a chair, and a conveyor belt would go past with loads of prizes. Loads, I mean, it was very 70s, 80s prizes, kettles, toasters, all that. And the very famous one was there was always a cuddly toy, always. A holiday and all that. And they would go past, and then they would have a minute to remember them. And the ones they remember, they kept. That was the end game. So, you can watch it on YouTube. It's very, very sensitive. But the reason I'm getting to that is he told me once that, life is like the generation game, the conveyor belt, and opportunities go past you. And, you either watch them go by or you grab them off the conveyor belt. And that's the difference. Some people, see them go by, or it's recognizing when to grab the opportunity off the conveyor belt.
100%.
So I try and remember that. I'm not very good at it. Well, I've failed many times, but
it's not really. I mean, everything's meant to be as well. Like
we're all, exactly. We're all.
Sometimes the opportunity seem, shiny and bright at that moment, but maybe that would have led you down.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
exactly. That's not a good one. So you are where you're meant to be, really. As long as you keep moving and you're improving, you've got this improvements.
Exactly right. And I think the industry. I'm out of that public procurement now. I think there needs to be a lot of changes in public procurement. I think the organisations procuring our government schools and academies don't really understand the cleaning industry and don't really understand. They're still very hours based. It's all about how many hours you're putting into a contract. That's the value. That's what's going to almost win you the contract. And hours is just simply not. It's not what it's about. It's actually the outcome you achieve in the time you're doing.
If you sell them a robot that can clean in 30 minutes instead of 5, right?
Oh my God, exactly. But I have lost tenders because the feedback was that at the moment they're doing 200 hours a week. You've said you're going to do it for 175, and the building's already not clean at 200 hours. So thus, how can you do it for 175? Well, if you read the tender, it's because we're going to introduce £15,000 worth of new equipment that's going to drive the productivity up from, the present 250 to 300 meters per hour, and give you a better outcome because of, we can now cover the corridors in 2 hours instead of 6 hours because of this piece of machinery.
Exactly.
But that's very frustrating because the people running those processes don't understand. They do not understand.
And
they're hours based. They want to be hours based, and CURO and certainly a lot of good companies out there are outcome focused. It's an output spec. What, by all means, if we agree an outcome spec with the client, we agree the set KPIs that the standards should be, and absolutely hold us to account for those standards. If those standards are not there, then it is up to the incumbent to get the standard there. And if that means that they have to put more hours in than they were anticipating, that's their issue.
Exactly.
Because they gave you a price based on those standards.
Exactly. And you'd have to pay extra hours or anything to because it's
exactly.
So
but that is so
going into that, you just mentioned the complicated thing, the side of things, to get an agreement with a public sector. But getting into the operational side of things, what would you say are the most complicated things about cleaning the school in the first place? Say you got the contract already,
Look, every school's different. From primary school, you've got the children are using glitter and sand, and obviously they're not quite as toilet trained as I was going to say older children, but it kind of goes, they get better, then they get worse.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they're that good anyway.
But there's different challenges, and the fabrics of the building. I went around a school the other day. As classic example, especially of independent schools in the UK, is you have a campus that may have a building that's dated from 1752 and has obviously got all the wood and the rabbit warren of rooms, and it's very, very low productivity to clean. But then over the years, they've then got their buildings that they built in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or even more recently, and some of them are beautiful open plan, beautiful fabrics that you can clean at much, much higher productivity. So not one solution fits one school, one campus. You have to really walk round, take lots of pictures, try and get your equipment supplier to come down with you to choose the right equipment. Is it a lot of carpet? Is it a lot of hard floor? Is there a lot of high level? Is there a lot of brass? Again, independent schools, a lot of brass. So there's lots of things. But then we have some fantastic products. We work closely with a gentleman called Matt, for his surname off the top of my head, but for a company called Nordichem. It's an incredible product. So Nordichem is a product that we lay down really in bathrooms and toilets and boarding room, bathroom cubicles, where they've been once they've been decleaned. It's a surface protector, so it fills in the subsurface of the surface.
Yeah.
Allowing not as long as it's recoated every 3 to 4 months, it doesn't allow any mildew or mold to rebuild, and it also makes the deep cleaning of those areas much, much more efficient. And so, although it's not the cheapest of actual products, but over a long time, and some of the very well-known sort of hotel groups are using it in all their ensuite bathrooms, because they have gone down to the minimalist science of that actually each room saves 1.5 minutes a month or something like that, but that accumulates over 50,000 rooms across the UK. So we're using some really innovative products. It also kills pathogens on contact, so it stays active. So if we put that on, that on desks, children's desks in a classroom, and somebody comes along, they have a cold, and they, have germs on their hands, or they sneezed,
Yep.
The pathogen would be killed on the surface. So when the next child comes along and hasn't got the cold, they wouldn't pick that up.
Wow, that's crazy.
One of my sort of, I suppose, challenges, what I want to achieve in this industry, and particularly with schools, is for them. Schools, their main KPI, Polo, is results.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yes. Okay. So, basically, in the independent school market, if you go to any independent school website today, I guarantee you, within the first few pages of their website, they will be boasting about their 98% of our students got from grades 6 to 9s or whatever, because that drives their business. They charge a lot of money, and parents quite rightly want results for that money. One of the biggest factors of a child getting results is being in school. So there is a stat. I wrote it down. I'm going to read it here. But it's 66% of pupils pass their GCSEs when they in English and maths when they were in school, but 78% passed when they were rarely absent, and 36% passed and got 5 GCSEs when they were absent quite frequently in years 10 and 11. And one of the biggest reasons, especially in independent schools, for absenteeism is not bunking off school. It's actually illness. It's actually not being well. And having a clean environment and a healthy environment, using products like Nordichem on the surfaces, ensures or helps certainly keeping pupils in school. And that directly relates to the outcomes the school wants to see, better results.
Of course.
And if by making that connection, and I don't think that connection is often made, but when I'm in a presentation and I'm making that case, they understand. Our job is to help keep pupils in school.
Exactly.
Keep the teachers in school.
Teachers, yeah. I was going to say we can't just focus on the kids, because if the teacher, if they're not there, then it's useless.
Well, and also I think it's more continuity of teacher, because the teacher will always, my daughter sometimes comes back to school and says, how was whatever today, history? Oh, we just caught up on exercise because the teacher wasn't there. We had a reserve teacher, supply teacher, or cover teacher. And obviously that's not continuity. So yes, it's really important to have the continuity of staffing and pupils in school. That has a direct link to results.
That is very true, because I can tell you for a fact that one of the big failings in Spain, I've been telling people, friends, etc. I've worked at schools, and then I know a lot of teachers, because here there's loads of teachers. And what happened is they have a system where you kind of do like a state exam, like a public exam, right?
Yeah.
And then you choose your regions according to your grade, and then you get sent to one random school because, of your grade and your experience. So obviously when it's just starting, you could end up on a mountain in the middle of nowhere, and 2 years down the line, everyone, you don't want to be there, and you want to be back where you live or you're from, right? So what happens is the children from these schools never have continuity. They have like a new English teacher, a new maths teacher every single year. And it's so obvious that without that continuity, the students are going to get bad grades or behave worse, because, each teacher has their own methods, they have their own personality. So it doesn't make sense. And in England, it's a bit different, right? You have an interview at that school, and you probably stay there for 5-6 years. So most students do see you through out, and that's definitely helped me when I was at school to see the same teacher from year 7 to year 13. And it's something very important, as you say, having that continuity there. So the same thing as, obviously, for them not to be ill, so then they can be there for most of the time and can deliver great service, right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We know what, when a norovirus or something hits primary school or any school, people drop like flies, pupils and staff.
Exactly.
So I'm not claiming that a fantastic cleaning company can eradicate these problems, because that would be totally ridiculous. but it certainly can. It can certainly help in ensuring that we do the best we can.
Is there any way to actually measure it? Like, I know.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Yeah. Really, no, it's a
KPI, and how do you measure that?
Yeah, so I tell you, that's a really good question, because we do. So like Nordichem, it's an expensive product.
Yep.
And we're sort of selling it that, you put it lay on the surfaces and it kills pathogens on contact, and, okay. But I'll tell you what, you're going to want to know, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, that it's working. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to ATP test that. Now that's where we come along with a swab. We actually swab test it. So we agree certain swab areas within the school. So and then on a weekly basis, we'll swab the same area of a particular agreed desk. And then we actually put that into an ATP test, and it measures the bacteria and all the nasty stuff. And to see it's still at an acceptable level. So that they can see that the invisible solution, because they're paying for an invisible solution.
Yeah, they can't do it.
It doesn't sit on the surface of the desk going, I'm working. So, but we do science. Science backs up that what they're paying for is working. And we did a really good experiment once at a school when we started doing this a couple of years ago, actually, and I probably make you cringe here a little bit, but, this particular school, and I will caveat, it's none of the schools that I am involved with now, but it was a state school.
Yep.
But before dinner service, the kids, to top up their money card, it was biometric, so they would put their thumbprint on the scanner.
I had that, actually. I think.
Yeah.
I remember now.
Okay.
Yes, I think I had
So the dinner bell goes most days, and what kids tend to do is they rush to the toilet, have a toilet break, and then come back and get their lunch, top up their card. But most of them probably haven't washed their hands.
Yeah, that's something that they,
Yeah. So we swab tested the thumbprint reader, the biometric reader, and it was off the scale with bacteria, so they're about to go into lunch. So we laid Nordichem on that and cleaned it obviously off, disinfected it, etc. Laid Nordichem on there, and then the same attitudes were happening. Kids were still going to the toilet, going to top up, but we were swab testing that on a weekly basis, and the product was doing its job. So those pathogens, when they were being killed on contact. Wow. And thus we created the safe environment, as a prime example.
For the hotspots.
For the hotspots, yeah. It's a classic example.
Apply that everywhere.
You apply it everywhere, be incredibly expensive, but too expensive. But yeah, it's about working intelligently, where you put it. Absolutely. Yeah, so classic example.
I love that. So I know, as you said, you talked about the expense, right? So we can appreciate the fact that not all schools are independent schools. Not all independent schools have the money to invest in this type of solution. Yet, maybe they will have to work up on it. So, what would you recommend them if it's a school that doesn't have the luxury to hire CURO or any other cleaning service? What basic steps that anyone could take, any headmaster, any operational managers of a school can take in order for their school to be cleaner? Straight.
Well, I think I'm going to take you to task on the luxury of hiring a company like CURO, because I actually truly believe that if a school is in-house at the moment, that we will find, if asked to do a solution, anywhere, depending on, let's take a secondary school. If it's a secondary school, we will find 20 to 25% efficiencies. Okay, cost savings.
Oh, 100.
Yeah, we will find those because, as I said, they are not the cleaning experts.
Yep.
They will not be investing in the machinery. Look, listen, there are some. I've been around one only last week. I was incredibly impressed because the facilities manager had experience in the cleaning industry. So he was out there sourcing the right piece of machinery because it knew it saved him labor and it would give him better outcomes. You know, he was doing a great job. They had a great in-house solution. And I was more than sort of helping advise because I was so impressed, you know. But I would be saying, you know, if they want to keep it in-house, then they need to, but they want to get efficiencies. They need to invest in the right machinery. Maybe hire a consultant in. There are some really good consultants out there who will come. You know, I'm thinking maybe something like the Litmus Partnership. They will come in, and ISCC. They will come in and do an overview, and even probably do a report on if you want to stay in house, this is what you need to do, or you can outsource. But that will involve investment in equipment. So they're going to need to invest in equipment. They're going to have to make sure their cleaning staff are trained properly on that equipment. It's one thing buying the equipment. Yeah. You then got to make sure they're using the equipment correctly. Things like the cleaning chemicals often are the dosaging. Are those, you know, I'm guilty of this. I love to clean my car. I've always liked to enjoy cleaning my car, but I fill up the bucket of water. And I know that the cleaning product I buy, this car shampoo, has 2 capfuls. It says 2 capfuls. And I put 2 capfuls in and I go, that just doesn't look like it's soapy enough. It just doesn't. You know, clearly the company that made the product know what the dosage should be. But, you know, I know better, so I glug it in. I put probably, it looks nice and soapy. You know, that happens in our industry where we ask our operatives to fill up a 5-litre bucket, and it's 2 or 4 doses of what, depending on what product. And we have dosage plungers. It's notorious that they put more in. Then you get sticky floors, and the outcome is not what you expect. Although they've done their job, but they haven't followed the sort of the guidance.
Yeah.
So is that happening when you outsource? You have a trained supervisor or non-cleaning supervisor or contract manager doing that training, making sure. And our manufacturers are also recognizing that these are the things that go on. So now they've even coming up with products where the dosage is already in a packet, like a sachet, dissolvable sachet. So you fill up the bucket and throw the sachet in. Yeah, it's 1 sachet. Obviously, the next stage is people are throwing 2 sachets in because they want it. So you're never going to get over that. But you've got to, you know, that's where it's great supervising your staff.
The schools usually have already supervisors for that kind of thing.
They normally have a supervisor, but what I find is they normally have a cleaning supervisor. So, you know, they're the supervisor, but they still clean an area of the school. So how can they supervise when they've got their own area of the, you know, they may spend the last...
They're in the bubble. They're not outside of the bubble, and they're in a completely different space. So physically, they cannot be checking out how the sports hall has been done, the swimming pool has been done.
Correct. Or they may do it for the last 15 minutes, have a quick walk round, but then it's too late. Yeah, you've done that wrong. Oh, we'll have to pick it up tomorrow. Where if you have put a non-cleaning supervisor in there, they have that autonomy to walk the site, make sure people are using the equipment correctly, check the standards, and it's really money well spent, because what you then do is you push the productivity of the team up and you get your cost of that non-cleaning supervisor back in spades. Because
you would say that it's easy to get like a consultant like that, you know, in most areas in the UK.
Yeah, no, they're national, absolutely. So, a lot of I mean, we're finding out a lot of in-house operations, they are, because they're looking at their costs, they are perhaps not straight away looking to outsource. They want to see what the recommendations are. And I've myself, I mean, I know obviously I've got one for, I was doing that. I am doing that even now. It comes down to trust, doesn't it? Obviously it's a bit difficult when you are also running a cleaning company, because obviously I want the cleaning contract. Yeah. Make no mistake. But I've done that for a couple of schools recently. And I said with this one particular school, I'm immensely impressed with what they're doing. I think the incentive for them to outsource would, you can just get rid of the headache. At the moment, you're running the cleaning operation, you're doing the payroll, you're doing the HR, you're doing the admin, you're ordering the chemicals. Obviously, when you outsource, that all comes to the contractor. Yeah. So it's more about just freeing their time up so they can do the other things that they may not be doing, because managing a cleaning team of 25 people is quite intense. Yes. But the majority of in-house operations are very inefficient. So I don't think it's a luxury to go out to market and outsource. I actually think it's a cost-cutting measure, but has the added silver lining that you're getting a professional cleaning company in to do a better job, ultimately for less money. I mean, and that brings me back to why I said to Frank in that LinkedIn post, why wouldn't they now outsource? Because when they get their bill at the end of the month, yes, it will include VAT, but now they can claim that VAT back. So I do not understand now why any school really in the independent school market would not outsource or even look to outsource their cleaning.
It's a very controversial maybe question that just happened to pop up in my head.
Yeah, sure.
What would the cleaners that working in-house say to that?
Oh, it's a brilliant question. It's a great question, and it's a great question because I said to you earlier, 80% of a cleaning contract is labour, and what does that actually mean? It means people, and yeah, some of these in-house cleaners, and this is one of the probably reasons why some schools wouldn't still look at outsourcing, is because actually, wow, these staff have been with us for
20 years,
or exactly, and that is absolutely what happens and does happen, and I think what's really important, this is where Tom, actually the companies I've always worked for that have been very about people focused and about the people, especially post Brexit. We had to have a podcast and use that word, so there we go, I got it in. But especially post Brexit, where the labour pool in the UK isn't what it was, and so now retention of staff is critical, because recruitment of staff and the retraining of staff is very costly and very unproductive. When you've got a cleaning team in situ that are staying, you are working more productive because they learn the site, they know how things work. So retention of staff is very important. So getting the right pay rates and also transferring those staff over. Obviously, there's laws, the TUPE legislation, the transfer of undertakings is in place, which means their jobs are protected. Protection of employment was the bit I was forgetting there. Yep. Because but that's one thing, but it's bringing them on the journey of, yes, you've been working for the school for 20 years, but you're now going to come and work for CURO. Nothing changes apart from you're going to get better equipment to make your life easier, because we have to recognize cleaning is an extremely physical job and tiring job. We're going to give you the better equipment to make that job easier. We're going to train you. We're going to give you the support, the uniform, and you'll be working for a dedicated cleaning company, not a school that has so many things to worry about.
No, they're like the last piece.
Yeah,
of the puzzle.
but you know what? And this is very part of the Thomas Franks Group ethos and also now CURO's. It's not about Thomas Franks and it's not about CURO. It's about the school. So our cleaners don't have CURO uniforms. They have the school's logo. They're still part of the school. So those cleaners who feel part of that particular school, they, you know what, for all intents and purposes, they absolutely are still part of that school because we know they care about that school. The difference is they get paid at the end of the month by CURO or the kitchen staff by Thomas Franks. But it is about the school, always about the school. You will go into a Thomas Franks catered school and you would think it's an in-house operation. There's not Thomas Franks everywhere, like here, this is us, you know, on the pass, you know, Thomas Franks logo. It isn't. It's, you know, we supply the expertise to make sure the end product is amazing, you know, through our many chefs and etc. and our cleaning operations people. But actually, the parents, the staff would not. They'll notice a difference in the product, the outcome, but they probably just think the school have just hired better people to do it or something. So it is all about the people. The whole, you know, and paying right benefits, staff retention. We are only as good as the people at the coalface. We are a labour-driven business, and if we haven't got them working for us, with us, if we don't give them the right tools, if we don't give them the right training, if we don't give them the right pay, if we don't give them the right supervisional support, we don't give our supervisors the head office support to back them when they need HR support, we're nothing. We are absolutely nothing. So yeah, transferring staff during mobilisation is a huge part of what we do.
Yeah. I was going to say. I mean, it came up with a head. It's not like
it's a great question.
Yeah, I was just thinking from the school's perspective, from the cleaner's perspective. I grew up at a boarding school, so I knew the detachment, right? Not only with the teachers, but you know, I was living at the boarding house. I had cleaners who literally saw me grow up. You know, like being in the rooms where sharing, to being in an individual room and that conversation, and I can see, you know, how they would see it, you know, from being an in-house to suddenly a big company come in, you know, we're going to get fired, that kind of thing.
100%. And efficiencies doesn't necessarily and often does not mean redundancy. I always say to our clients, you know, so they say, "Oh, you can save us 25% efficiencies," and you know, and I say to them, "Look, there's several ways you can do that," and they never pick redundancy because no one really wants to see that straight off the bat. But we normally do it through natural osmosis. So when people naturally leave, which people do leave, you know, we don't replace them. Yeah. You know, so if our solution is to reduce hours, we agree with the client that may not happen in year one. That it may take a bit of time to get to our desired solution, but we'll do that through natural osmosis.
Love that.
Or we say, look, we can actually keep the staffing you've got, and you know,
a better time, and then they work.
But we do more. Let's do more. So yeah, we can do what you do at the moment for 25% less. But what other tasks can we do?
Missing that was missing before, right?
Yeah. I love that. So we actually increase the spec. But we also, go back to you being at boarding school, again, the cleaners, that team have a huge part, especially in boarding schools, of pastoral care. Yeah. You know, they spot things.
Exactly. They're looking at what we do.
They let the matron know that, you know, a bit worried about this person. They look a bit homesick, or they found something in their room that, you know, doesn't look great for their health and safety. You know, so we have a big part to play in all that as well. Absolutely.
Well, anyways, Rob, I think we've come to the end of this first interview. I'm sure, you know, once you get going,
we'll give you an update.
Yeah, because it's just the start, right? You've been telling us that in September, you know, you might have a lot of schools joining CURO, so I'll be very excited to hear more about that.
I look forward to telling you about it.
Thank you, Rob, for sharing your in-depth knowledge So then hopefully schools can pick it up through LinkedIn or other channels,
Absolutely.
No, right? We're opening doors.
Yeah.
Let's see who's coming back.
So really, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to do the Proto Lab experience. It's been great fun. I look forward to giving updates as we go forward.